That's what he said.
No, that was part of my discussion with you.
Okay. You Scott.
He
said Scott.
No, you said you saw it in it.
Oh, and he thinks Scott. Huh?
Assume.
Oh, you assume, but that's not true. That was me.
Speak up, Jim.
I thank Scott for the summary. In the summary, it was.
Oh, okay.
disclosed with
That's
the
what he
word
said. He
down.
said it was.
Oh.
But it wasn't in the summary, though, is it? Yes, it is. Yes, sir.
Yeah.
No, it's not in the summary. That's what I didn't know where he got that from.
Okay.
It's in the long one, Larry, but not in
Yeah.
the summary.
Okay.
And I discovered it when I was going through the budget.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay. And you already said in this budget you addressed the $15 minimum wage
Yes, I did.
Full-time employees.
For the full-time employees, we still
what
need,
about
and
the
I think I sent you a note this morning. We
Mr.
still
Manager, what about the part-time?
We already have issue with the part-time employees. Already, we have to fix that
So-
problem before we even
What
think
issues?
about those part-time.
we needed to.
We need to know if
Is
we
there
need
something
if
I
we
don't
need
need to know- I need
500
to know about?
No, no,
part-timers. We-
I'll explain it. We
Okay.
needed to go through the bargaining process with the full-time employees first to achieve that goal. And then now I can recommend a more systematic
system-
way to deal with the
part-time.
part-timers. Part of that will be career opportunity. So, as you know, they've been here X amount of years. As full-time positions become available, you want to move those individuals first into those opportunities. That is the way the county addressed it, the city of Miami and all the other cities. And it takes, unfortunately, and you might not want to hear this, it's going to take a few years to skin that cat. You know, we'll be very, myself, the HR director, will be very focused on it because now we got, you know, again, I got to thank the general, the white collar and blue collar employees because they agreed to the contract to let us take this first step. So, so we're able to move this forward systematically.
Okay, second question, the motor pool. You're gonna build a fence?
I will promise to put a wrap, and I'm gonna put my face on it if you don't mind.
What but can we find money to put a fence? Because understand that if you have the already spending millions of dollars, you have Lexus next door, and the city cannot just put a fence to make
I mean,
the area look good, put some
you-
trees and
If you're asking me to, well, the wrap is the easy solution because what it does, it clearly
It's a
just
temporary
masks the
solution.
thing. But if you want us to beautify it a little bit, I mean, we can look at some
not
stuff.
beautify, put a fence, put plants, or use the rental money, the lease money from Audi.
That lease is gonna be up in a few months. So, but I get your point. I get your point.
But do we all agree that we need a fence over there?
I don't-
Especially on
The-
142nd. Yeah.
The whole area could use some gussying up, but however you want to.
I mean, it's a heavy fleet.
Right.
We keep our seized vehicles there. You know, it's like it's a motor pool. It's
Yeah, but we understand that,
Yeah.
but you don't understand the money that people spend next to it.
right.
You need to
Right.
protect the investment.
Audi and Lexus.
We'll look
and
at it.
Portofino that's gonna come in the area. And that's
Absolutely.
a way for people to stay away from Biscayne Boulevard.
Right.
Okay. And second question, North Miami Stadium. Do you have money in the budget for the bleachers?
Yeah, we actually that procurement is already out, so I don't want to say any numbers.
No, we understand.
But yes, and we are seeking. We're also seeking FEMA reimbursement for that as well.
Okay, but you do have money to
Yes,
spend
we do.
for the bleachers.
Yes.
And another thing in the budget, I think is my last question. Did you add $2 million to the reserve? Or you add it and you
No,
take
so
it away to balance the budget?
no. The reserve, what's in the reserve is what we're
I'm talking about the 2 million.
the 2 million. That's what
That
we're
you add.
statutorily. Well, a portion of it is what we're statutorily supposed to put there. The 2 million that's there is the 2 million for Cagney Park.
That's what you
Yes.
that's what you put
That's
in
what the 2
reserve?
million is there. Yeah, that's what the 2 million is for.
Okay, meaning you use the $2 million from Costco to balance the budget, right?
No, that 2 million of reserve is going to be wire transferred to the escrow account to build Cagney Park. That is set aside money.
No, I'm not talking about that $2 million. I'm talking
That's
about the 2 million
the-
from Costco.
No, that I don't have that money in here.
Where is it?
It's in a bank account waiting to be sent back.
Okay, that's what I think we need to know.
Right,
That's
right.
when make sure it's not in the budget.
Right.
And you're gonna send it back. Okay.
Maybe.
Yeah, but how long is gonna take?
What, to send the money back?
Yeah.
2 seconds.
You know,
Yeah, but what about if the person said, okay, you keep my money for over a year. Now I need this amount of interest. What you going?
there's I'll work it out if you'll allow me
Okay.
with our lesser partner, Solar Media.
But we didn't vote on it.
You didn't
Give
vote
the
on it.
direction.
And that
to
money is
send
not-
the money.
And that
Huh?
money is not affecting tonight's
No,
bottom line
it's
for this
not.
budget.
That's
It's
when
not.
it's not anywhere in the budget.
It's not in the budget.
But you
It's in
cannot.
the bank account.
But you cannot bring us a budget where all the city money. Are not there.
We don't always appropriate all dollars.
Even though if it's not appropriate, it need to be somewhere.
No,
We need to identify it, whether it's a reserve,
No, that is-
whether it's unallocated fund.
that is incorrect.
Okay, where do we see
In the
unallocated
cap,
fund
you
in
see
the budget?
you see that when we produce the audited financial statements of the city. That's when all the dollars. That's the document where all the dollars will be accounted for.
That's when we may have other money at the bank that we don't know. This is what
You'll have unappropriated cash, like for instance, in the case of the
Oh,
lease payment is sitting in the bank account. You'll see it. In fact, if you recall, I provided you guys with an analysis in a format that you wanted to see it that was different from the GAAP required format that's in the financial statements in the CAFR. That was
Okay, you're telling me we don't know exactly how much money we do have at the bank right now.
I know exactly how much money we have in the bank.
Do you know how much unallocated fund
Yes,
we
we
have
do.
now?
Yes.
How much it is?
Miguel Augustin, Finance Director. We have $49 million in the bank right now.
I say unallocated fund.
Well,
I
the
know the money is at the bank, but how much money is allocated in the budget? How much
You see-
unallocated
all right,
fund do we
all right.
have?
I need
two
you.
different-
Wait, before you answer that question, because you're taking us down a road
Yeah.
of not answering legally correctly, and you need to bifurcate the budget process. In the budget process, we allocate some recurring or all recurring and some non-recurring revenues to get to a balanced budget. Separate and apart from that, we have a CAFR that is an audited financial statement that is produced, that is signed off by our external auditors. It identifies reserves, cash balances, and audits and accounts for all of those dollars. Remember in the discussion last when they presented it, we showed a reserve deficit because we had to do the accounting entry to account for the $20 million that we got from Solomia in the first place as not as revenue taken, but as a liability that we have to earn over the next 100 years. So I can represent you with the document that we prepared, which is our own internal document, but I don't want to be putting on the record, oh, the reserve is X, because the CAFR is the controlling document with regards to how much the reserve is right now. So
But right now, we are approving a budget. How much is the general fund is, the budget? 70,
70 million to six. No, I'm sorry. What is it?
I
$69,528,188.
thought you
How
said
do we-
70.
how do
the
we
budget
pass?
reduced
You said
through the
70,
manager. The budget
70
reduced
to 60.
through the manager. The budget reduces to $69 million. We had an extra $700,000 in for the sanitation as we raised the rate, but we got the direction to lower the rate. So we lowered the rate after the meeting. So all documents and everything that we did put forth beforehand were at the $70 million. Once we did the advertisement that we came into that was in the Herald was still at the $70 million. When we got here tonight and reduced the amount, it goes down to the $69 million.
Can I ask you a question? When you were the budget director and you used to present a budget for the fiscal year, Is it a place in the budget where you show unallocated fund, reserve?
We only just on the non-departmental page. That's what we just showed.
That's where it used to be.
That's what it's still there.
It's still there.
Yeah, what we
How
show,
much it
yeah.
is? Where's that?
It's there. It's
Give me the page.
page. It starts on page 303. Right now. Or you could do. Are you doing all of the Fund 515?
306, sir. Page
Yeah.
306.
It starts on 303, right?
306.
Yeah, it goes up to from 303 through 309, 310.
The page you're looking
Right.
for is 306. That's where the reserves. You have $5 million reserve that we're statutorily required to do. The 2 million is the 2 million for the Cagney Park.
I understand that. Why we don't add how much unallocated fund do we have? Which is, if I take the previous
If I do,
budget, like
if I do,
2013,
by doing that,
Mhm.
I'm now appropriating dollars that have no offset, if you will. So I can, by
what-
your approval, I can
That's
use
when
it
we
for.
decide if we have a surplus, what do we do with the surplus or a minus?
No. By doing that, I would be adding money for the purpose, for a non offset purpose.
Okay, did you use any unallocated money to balance the budget?
I just told you no.
That's mean this year we did not have a budget deficit.
We won't know. You guys are intermingling two things.
I just
You're
asked
talking,
you a question.
no, I know, but you're talking about where we're going to end. We don't know where we're going to end yet. I'm appropriating, I
Okay,
presented you
from
with
last year budget, did
Last-
we had any?
from the CAFR, from last year's budget, we did not have a reserve, if you recall, remember? We had that discussion.
We did not have a reserve.
Right, because we had to do the $16 million reclassification of the revenue from revenue to the balance sheet.
Okay, that's when you're telling me last year we did not have any budget deficit. And
No,
this year, no.
no.
And
From the
this year,
CAFR,
no.
yeah. When you're trying to. Well, let me ask you. What are you trying to assess? Maybe that'll help me answer your question better.
Like from last year budget, did we have enough capital to cover the budget? Or did we use any other money to do that?
According to the budget to actual, we went over the budget, but again, that was because of the accounting entry that we had to post at the end of the fiscal year.
Listen. That's been, when we're gonna know how much unallocated fund do?
When we
Yeah.
do the CAFR
Which is
at the
when?
end of the fiscal year, we'll have another. Well, the CAFR will show you where we are.
And how much money we, okay.
Right.
For example, after we were discussing 151, right? And they end up send us some back pay checks.
Right.
Where is that money in the budget?
That money's not in the budget. That money's in our cash count for the current fiscal year. Remember, we're appropriating a budget for a future period that hasn't started yet.
Understand that?
So we don't know where we've ended as of now. So that cash is it's in the cash. It's in the bank account.
Mr. Soe, can I, just a quick question. You telling me in your budget, previous budget, like 2013, you never had a line with unallocated fund? Like money that we have, but as council, we haven't
I
decided.
think I understand what you're asking now. Every year when we would finish the budget, we would have we would have like $1 million left over. We balance the budget, and we'll have $1 million left over in expenditure money we can use. And you guys decided how you were going to divvy that
No, I'm
money
talking
up.
about money coming in that we did not expect, we did not budget it. That's what I said. We never had a line.
The only
Yeah,
line
you-
that
yeah.
you're speaking of is the line that we said we had of extra money that we hadn't allocated yet for council projects. And you guys voted on the projects right then on what you want to do. We put money toward houses, sidewalks, and that type of stuff. That's I believe the account you're speaking of.
I'm gonna give you an example. We budget about $1 million for the police, right? 1.5 or 1 million to hire new police?
A million.
A million. But that money did not have any cars in there. Okay, now where did you take that money to buy cars?
Through the manager, we utilize the impact fee money. Approximately $193,000 is available in the impact fees that goes toward police. So we're using
Where
that
is
money
that here?
to lease the cars.
It's not.
You won't have that page because the impact fee page you won't have in your budget book.
What impact fees? You don't
get-
anticipate any,
New development.
or
Well, no,
you don't
because
anticipate
we're
anything?
because we are expanding our service area. That's why we're using the impact fee funds for the additional cars.
That means you're only using 130 something for cars? For the police, for the 32 officers?
I believe the number was approximately about $193,000, and we'll use the money to go toward the lease payments that we've been doing the last several years. We've been purchasing cars. So
That's when
yes.
in this year budget, you're not adding any additional cars besides those for the 32 officers.
We just bought we just
A
bought
bunch.
about $2
But
million
every year
worth of new
we
cars.
need it. But
You
we do
you have
need a
your
lot more
ongoing
every
you
year
have
we
your
buy.
ongoing lease cost that we have,
Mm-hmm.
and then the additional lease for the cars that we'll get, I guess, towards the end of the fiscal year. The budget for
What
that.
about the officers that need those cars? We've been there for over 10 years. That every year we add money in the budget for new cars for the police department until we done with the old fleet.
Through the manager, I believe through the leasing of vehicles over the past
3 years,
4 years, I believe every patrol car now will be a new car on the street through this last budget, if I'm correct.
what we
Yes.
did
Yeah.
3 years
All
ago.
of the, we started 3 years ago. All the patrol cars will all be new vehicles after the new bunch come in, the new batch come in this fiscal year now. Well, the cars we're waiting on.
You talking
So we'll
about
have
this
all
year?
new, we'll
This
have all
year
new
you talking
cars, yes.
about?
Before December, I think they're coming in now.
We
Yes.
used like $2 million of Biscayne Landing money to buy new squad cars just a couple of years ago, so 3 years ago. We made a significant investment.
Yes, we've been buying cars over the last 3-4 years.
I know I've been here for,
Yeah,
with-
yeah,
but every
exactly.
year you add 500,000-600,000 for new cars, but this year didn't add any.
But we've upgraded all of the fleet cars for police. All of the patrol cars have completely been switched out. So the new cars will be for the
You
new
telling me there's
additional
no
officers.
officers on the street with
Once the new batch of cars come in, there will be no Crown
December.
Vics on the street. No, unless some accident happens or something, we'll keep a couple of them around. If an accident happens, then that'll be the only reason they're in. If they're just driving a car.
Let me ask a question. I just want to jump in. What happened to the crime prevention while we are talking about police?
we said
It is,
Yes.
Chief?
the budget.
Larry Jariga, Chief of Police, that was put in originally, and then through discussion, I believe that was, that $21,000 for that was put in as well.
So we good? Oh, okay.
keep
No, I
saying
just
it's
want to
good,
make
it's good.
something. He trying to do what?
Because Terry said no, it's not in the budget.
No.
And
The
Chief-
manager
Chief
said
said-
we okay. I'm good.
Oh.
Okay, thank you,
It's
Chief.
in the budget. It's in the budget.
No questions. No further questions. No.
Few questions. I had written a memo and I didn't go over it with you this afternoon, but a couple questions on page 333, code compliance. There was a $30,000 item for rents and leases. What was that for?
In the memorandum, what page?
For the customer service hub that we have across the street,
The storefront.
the storefront,
Why is it in code compliance?
because they're moving to the back half of the suite. That was part of the plan I presented
So
to
you have another item in building maintenance and there was a lease. What building, I thought that's where that was. About 11,000.
What page is that?
I don't know, it's in building maintenance?
Because remember that customer service hub, we're gonna have UB, finance. My buddy over here, the clerk, said passports. So we have several departments being affected by that.
I thought Michael
So-
got back the
so there's
passport
another-
department.
He did. He got it back. He just moved
You-
them physically, moved them over there.
There's
Michael,
another line item I was noticing, approximately 11,000 a quarter for for building lease.
Is that the allocation? What page is it on? You don't know?
I didn't mark it, I just. It's under building and maintenance.
What department? Under building department? Because you have building and maintenance in every department. So it may be, that might just be, is that internal allocation?
I don't remember which department, I thought
Okay,
it was
oh, where it is, okay.
building and maintenance, we can't Google.
329, no, building and maintenance is 325.
That's a general ledger account that affects every department.
I don't have it marked, I just remember seeing it, because I was looking for, I had asked you where the cost for the building across the street was, where that lease was, and then I found something building and, I think, building and maintenance.
Building and maintenance is a general account for, you know,
Well, that was up
repair,
in the top, and I saw
improvements, and stuff like
something
that.
for rental, and I thought that was what that was
Okay.
across the street, but now I see, if that's what it is in code, then there's another 44,000 we're spending for lease.
in code or somewhere else?
I don't remember which department.
Yeah, we
I saw
would-
it and I was like, oh, okay, that's where it is.
Okay.
So, maybe I can find it before we're done. Couple minor things that is not gonna be popular, but, you know, we're spending, I've asked for this every year, I'm still gonna request that, I think we could save a lot of money, events, staff time, if we did a single turkey drive. Our residents,
That's up to
our residents,
us.
a lot of our residents really look forward to it, they appreciate it. A lot of people get a turkey on their table for Thanksgiving that might not otherwise.
Turkey drive do we have?
We have 3, 4,
We don't, who do, I don't have turkey drive.
we used to have one, you and I
I
did
don't
one.
have turkey drive.
One, but what's happening, and I can't keep track of how many which year or not, but if we all did it at the same time.
Or
the
we don't
same-
use staff, I don't use staff for turkey drive.
Okay.
I did it with the churches.
But
Okay, so
we don't do
so
that.
the second part of that is, do we need $30,000 for turkeys?
you need
At
more
about-
than that.
At about, I don't know, at about
I do.
$12 a turkey, that's like 2,500 turkeys.
And
That's a lot of
yes.
turkeys. What happens every year is we have a turkey drive here, a turkey drive here, and the same people sign up in line or register or however we're doing it, because we keep changing, and some people are getting a turkey at every drive, and some people aren't, because if you have one big drive, everybody gets a turkey, nobody's turned away.
Yeah, but understand, and Vice Mayor Keys,
Mm-hmm.
we budget the money, but most of the time, we have half of the money as donation.
Right.
That's
So
mean
I'm
we're
just
not
saying-
gonna use the $30,000 from the budget. We put it in case. But when we're gonna try to get
I know,
to raise money,
there's no
we're gonna have
question.
$20,000
I'm just
from
saying we
our
could.
vendors, and that we're gonna spend that
Councilwoman
money.
Keys, Vice Mayor, are
I
you?
know we collect a
You
lot of
said
money
it's
from
gonna be
donors.
unpopular, so
We,
you got your answer.
Yeah.
No, no, Vice Mayor. One year, you and I and the mayor, we did it together, which is fine. So you could ask us. I'll partner with you.
Thank you.
Okay,
Well,
good.
we
Do
could
that
have a
time
ni-
to do
we
it.
could have a
We can-
nice big event, and I would love to do
Yeah,
it.
I just
But we
did,
don't
never
have
liked
full-
The
the.
reason I'm bringing it up today is because I hear later on, I heard before it was gonna be one, I said, that's great, and I can't ask you, I really shouldn't be asking you and discussing this and that, so I'm bringing it up that I think one big turkey drive where everybody comes.
That's what we usually do.
I just
don't
think
do turkey
30,000 is a
drive.
lot of money for turkeys.
We're not gonna
Yeah,
spend
but
$30,000.
okay. Here's the thing. Here's the thing. If Councilman doesn't do one, then do we weed out his people that are coming to
What's
ours?
mean?
It's for
My
the city.
people gonna get
I
turkey.
never, I
We
never,
don't do
I
turkey
never
drive,
gave
but they're
tur-
gonna get
okay,
turkeys.
I don't do
No,
turkeys.
I know. I'm saying if they come to ours.
My
That-
turkey-
okay,
my
but listen.
turkey
I don't know
drive-
how we got to
Can we
Turkey
do
Drive. We got.
something
I got.
It's a big number.
I got
It's
other
not
stuff.
a big number.
No, that's not.
Councilwoman
Okay.
Carol,
Keys.
30,000. I don't.
It's a-
Okay.
it's get-
I'm just saying.
when
We're
I
not
do my
spending
turkey drive,
$30,000.
I don't only give to District 2, I give
Okay,
to
You
each
do.
district.
Okay.
I know. I do
And
too.
yours,
Mr.
and
Manager.
Yes, you do.
and the whole city.
And I
Councilwoman
appreciate
Keys
it.
said she don't want turkey drive. We
No,
can't
she
add
didn't
it.
say that.
No, I
Oh.
would just like one big one for
Cal-
everybody.
I have a question once you're done,
Can I ask
Councilwoman.
a question?
No,
Go ahead.
No, it's not. Another, probably not super, popular is we have a discretionary fund of $250,000, which I think is a lot.
Give me your money.
I think we could have,
Can we,
I
can we
think we
get
could have
hers?
done with less. I'm not gonna say that, but, Mr. Spring, you came up with a guideline for discretion. It was you came up with a memo. We have never voted on it. I was hoping we could have
It's,
made that part of our
administrative.
budget this evening.
It is not something that you vote on. It's an administrative regulation.
Yeah, but
I-
something that,
It's
we need,
policies and procedures for allocation of discretionary funds.
Every employee of the city will be bound by administrative regulation.
And I think, we haven't done it, it's not finalized, but I think we should have some kind of, directive or guideline, so we're not just,
Well,
I mean, our
if you
taxpayer-
recall, and you did recall, I sent it out to each and
and
every
we
one of
asked you
you.
to put,
Okay.
away and,
So
Go ahead.
we will have it implemented. If you want us to bring back a resolution with it,
But you're
I
already
don't.
doing it. So.
Yeah, you already do, yeah, I wouldn't.
we have to, we send it out to you guys. I think we had a discussion a couple meetings ago. So
send
we're
it out
waiting
in
on the
April.
October 1st to
To
say.
start. But what is it that you're implementing? That's what I did not.
It's what I sent you, some standards to how you
why
would,
don't you use the same county?
that is from the
guideline?
That
county.
is from the
Okay.
county, yeah.
Okay, that's fine.
Yeah, that's
We're
the
okay with that.
guideline.
The only thing, when you said it's gotta be limited to 1,500, but it's a discretionary, you can decide to
Yes,
give
you- no,
an
it's 10,
organization.
right?
Like,
It's 1,500. We would,
let me ask you a question.
Mm-hmm.
Arch Creek East Preserve
yes.
and Councilman Scott. Scott,
Yes.
for Arch Creek East Preserve,
You guys can't tell me how much I'm gonna
And
give to one.
the
organization.
project
We gotta talk
that
about
Urban League start, do they need money for this year to finish it?
That's what I've been using my unallocated.
Yeah, you use that
money for,
$30,000.
so, yeah, so
But
I've
the other
matched-
phase,
from my understanding, Urban Paradise Guild received $30,000 to do natural plant restoration, so I've pledged out of my unencumbered money to match that $30,000, and whenever they need it, they'll come back and say, here's
They
what
need
we
that
need and
additional.
why, and that's when I'll go to the manager for his approval and say, hey, manager, here's what they want, does this fit the standards that you've already put in place, and if yes, then the check is,
okay, that's when we don't have
Payments
to
made.
put it on the budget. As
No,
far as the project comes, then we will.
I've got, like, if for some reason they needed more,
Okay,
I'm very, very cheap with my my unencumbered money, and I hold
as
it.
me.
I hold it for those projects where I feel we can make a real impact. So, in the last year, those are the types of things that I've used my money toward. Some improvements at the Keystone Tot lot. This year, maybe it'll go to the little fence around the motor pool. Things that are in District 1 or thereabouts.
how did
that-
you do all that with $50,000?
No, he has
Oh,
more.
Keep in mind,
other
that-
money,
Yeah.
not just-
Well, no. Remember that with regards to all of your discretionary monies going back years, that
Yeah, it
money gets
doesn't-
rolled
yeah,
over.
rolling.
If you don't
Let
spend
me
it.
ask you this. You said that the memo says 1,500. No, I didn't see that part because I
that-
would have a
That's the guideline.
objective.
Actually,
Yeah.
so since that conversation, since we're all
Yeah,
here
yeah.
now,
Mm-hmm.
I know Councilman BNMA, we discussed changing that particular threshold to a higher number. We haven't done that as of yet. But from what I sent out to you,
Yeah.
actually there's a scrivener's error in it. 'Cause I think it says 15,000.
Yes,
Yeah, it says 15, and I'm
Yeah.
like, I think
It's supposed to be
maybe
supposed to be
5.
1,500.
No. Well, that's a little. Yeah, 5,000.
So,
I
but
think that's
we'll bring that
that's
that
the
item
average.
back.
Not
Yeah.
even that. If we
Yeah, I-
feel like there's a project that
No, not
we
if
need
we
to
pass
do
it.
in the city and the project gonna cost more, like you put only $20,000 for trees, right? And I think in my district alone, I need more than $20,000
We can-
for trees.
We can put some language in there that builds some flexibility.
Yeah,
Wait.
yeah.
When you say language, so are we?
I'm going to now bring back a
Mm-hmm.
resolution with
You don't need it's an
That's what I'm saying. Yeah,
administrative
because
things that you need to
because-
sign, send us. Because you
That's
do-
what
at
you
the end
say.
of the day, you're gonna sign off on it.
yeah, because I'm like, unless you see, and I
What
don't
do you
know.
say,
So
Michael,
don't
what should we
call
do?
it discretionary, call it something else.
Yeah, if
If
exactly,
you're
if
going
it's
to spend
good,
it, something
yeah,
like that, you're going
then
to
I wouldn't even need
decide.
it.
So
Well-
don't
Yeah.
even call it
It's not that I'm
discretionary.
deciding. We were putting
Put it
some.
back in the budget
Yeah,
for
call it
anything
off.
else.
Yeah.
Do not call it what it is not.
I would
Okay.
The only reason why we put some guidelines on it is because at the end of the day,
Then
even though we
then
call
don't
it,
call it discretionary. Call it
Well,
something else.
while we call it discretionary, it's still public dollars, and so
you
we
go-
have to be careful about how
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Change the title of it.
Okay.
You have to change the title.
Okay, but I don't know how we got to this conversation. However,
Your
no.
councilwoman brought it
I
up.
know the councilwoman brought it up. I didn't have any problem with it. You had an administrative policy that I thought it was in place. I mean, everything I'm assuming you sign it. And by the way, if we are talking about that, we will
He asked
talk
for
about,
your input. That's why it
because,
wasn't,
well,
finalized.
since we are on that topic, if we're going to change it, whatever, it'll have to be a turnaround time, because I don't know how things get lost from your office down, and I don't think it's finance, but somewhere get lost when you do, you'll give a donation and then it'll take 4 months and for the person to, so if we're going to do all that, then we need to regulate how often that whoever's checking or whoever's doing whatever they need to do, however that process is, it needs to be at least a couple weeks, because sometime I say to a church, okay, I thought I donated something to you, and they're like, no,
wouldn't.
not yet. So
I'll have to really take the blame, because remember, every one of those requests, you guys put a cover on it and it comes through me, and I have lost one or two over the years.
Vice Mayor, may I?
May I have two more
May-
questions?
on that same note, I want
Yes,
to
go ahead.
say,
Oh, go
say
ahead,
something
yes.
very quickly. It's not just for donation; it's for the small businesses as well. And I have people coming to me, and they have invoices that have been there for like months, for 3 months, 4 months. Goes back to those small businesses. They do not have the reserve to absorb. I mean, if they spend money to do a job, or if they really they are relying on these small invoices. There may be $150, there may be $200, but for them, it's a lot of money, and they need that revolving, cash, for them to buy supplies or whatever it is that they need to perform their tasks. So
Mr. Mayor, talking about small business, let me say something to the CRA budget. I see you asking money for big business, but you need to understand you need to bring a new policy.
not the
You need to
CIA
bring
yet.
something for those
We can't
mom
talk
and
about
pop
that.
store.
yeah, mom and pop.
That
Yeah.
needs some. That needs some.
we have
grants.
the
Yeah, we
75.
We
pay
need to
them on
address
time.
those small
Yeah.
Yes,
business owners. And Russia is here. You're here. Make sure.
But
We
that's
were
a
gonna
different
come when
me.
we are about the budget, because the county, they have mom and pop grants where they help those small business owners, and if we can address that in
But
the
we do.
CRA
I
budget,
know- I
or in
know
the
we do.
policy,
With a policy.
have
it's
it.
not there. We don't.
I thought we have the
We don't- we don't
We
7,500.
don't have mom and pop. You don't have grants. I'm talking. That's not what I'm talking. The same way as the county does.
Can
I'll
we give
let-
it back to the vice mayor?
Yeah.
'Cause
Yes, go ahead.
she was nice enough
We can
to.
do that in the CR.
But I tell
Um,
Russia, you better.
okay.
If you don't have that, you don't have that. You don't have mom and pop grant like the county.
That's, you're on the wrong
But
board.
call it like that.
You're
Okay.
a councilman
You're
up
the
here,
wrong
not the
board.
board
Yeah,
member of
yeah.
the CRA.
never
Now,
heard
of it.
real
Vice Mayor.
quickly, on page 316, we have a line item of 56,400.
316.
Mocha, for Jazz at Mocha.
Yes.
I thought
that's an
Mocha
event
paid
we-
for
Was
that.
one of
No,
the
it's always been in
funding.
there, that,
Really?
and that's the same dollar amount it's been the entire, we've never
Okay.
even raised that. It's always been, since Bonnie Clearwater's days, $50,000.
I didn't know we were paying that. Okay. I thought there was a Mocha.
Yeah, we're looking at all events, so we
Yeah,
should
there might
look
be
at
some
everything.
money coming in from WLRN or somebody to match it or supplement it, but that's always been at 50.
And I think my last item is the
Yeah,
Friends of the, Inez came up and I had gotten a letter from her earlier about
We
the
already
teen.
addressed it. That's what I addressed.
Excuse me, come on,
Go ahead.
the library, they've asked for a teen librarian, but we don't have any kind of cost for that. What do we,
We have through the manager, we have a memo outlining Lucia's proposal to fund the position that we will be moving forward with. We just didn't get to it, during this budget process, but we can fund it with our current means.
what's the amount? Do we know how much we're
I
talking
can't.
about?
It's no. I want to say if it's not, it's no more than maybe $50,000. I'm not sure.
But I just asked for the part-time, so yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. I only have two comments, and
And then after that, let me,
you and I, we've already
those
discussed
two.
everything, and two comments we want to put on record is about I've always been worried about those high school kids or freshmen in college and so forth. That's why during summertime I give them part-time jobs at my office. I truly believe that kids especially these days they're having a really hard time. So they every time their moms, dads come and ask me if there is anything going on in the city where they can at least start and have something. So I talked to the manager to see if we can engage them and expose them to city government and so forth. So I understand you said it's guaranteed. You're working on it.
I'm working on it through some of our employment resources that will allow it to be have no impact to the city's budget. So
No impact to the city budget. Okay. And also, I'm very happy that 125th Street rehab is coming up. If we understand, I mean, Scott, it's a project that was supposed to be for what year, John? So we asked for it to be moved up. And what I'm thinking about 125th, I mean, it's like growing pain. I know, I understand the concerns from Councilman Galvin. But when you drive down on Las Olas Boulevard, and I'm sure that's the same thing they did, sacrifice some of the parking so that they make sure that they slow down. The idea is to slow down the traffic, slow down the traffic. People will stop, go maybe 15, 20 miles an hour, and then they will have time, to look around and see what's there. If they see something that catches their eye, then they'll stop and, and shop and eat and or play or do something. So it will take, we will take a little hit because of it, but I think in the end we will come out winners. Okay, and that's pretty much all I have to. And the Sasso, no, not the Sasso, I can never remember that pool.
That park?
That park.
Oleander?
Yeah. Yeah.
we were able to identify impact fee dollars
Impact fee dollars for
in order
that.
to deal with that.
And also, I had a request to make sure that I think it should be here, but the book is Santla. Apparently, did make some requests. I don't know if it's on here.
I have
If it's
Oh,
on the
yeah,
book.
I spoke to the manager regarding that. I don't,
that.
The book is big, so.
no, it's not there.
Hmm?
But
That's the same group that had returned the award.
He knows.
The last award that we gave them, they returned it because they didn't have sufficient staff or they were in transition.
Yeah.
So
what it is, I don't know.
Yeah, I didn't get the request, so I don't know what he's referencing.
I'm not aware of
Hmm?
that.
I didn't
I'm not
get-
aware. I didn't get
I didn't
that.
get a request from Sunlaw, so I didn't know what you were referencing.
No, Councilman asked me to reach out to them because of some of their funding issues. So
Just for the record, Councilman Galvin, I just got a call, I think a couple weeks ago, from the executive director, and I guess she reached out to you, Mr. Mayor. They just wanted to meet with us to see how, since they move into the city, all of the influx of residents kind of go to them as a resource. So they just,
even
didn't
passports,
give it-
we're sending passports. To
Yeah,
them
they
as well,
trying to
and
get
they're
as
doing
much.
a lot of-
yeah, people don't know. They just go there as a referral base, exactly.
They're not
quick
line
question.
itemed in this budget.
No.
they have CBO dollars, but we are looking to try to work with them on some of the like on the utility funds, so they'll be a service provider to the city.
Sure, and they might be somebody who in next year's budget could be line itemed like some of the other nonprofits that are in here. Let's say, for instance, Chamber of Commerce, hopefully you're on your feet a year from now and we're not giving you another $70,000.
That's not good.
Honestly though, because if they're not in a year, we need to really have that conversation. But that would be money where perhaps some of that
reallocate.
goes to Suntlaw because they are, I was just out there Friday afternoon, they're doing
Yep.
buku business, so to speak, and they're a nonprofit. I don't mean they're actually doing business, but a lot of people are going to that facility.
Two other questions, Mr. Mayor. In the budget, Mr. Manager, we talked about, if it's not 2 years ago, at least a year ago, the senior van. We're supposed to get a van for our seniors. And I'm a little bit ashamed that
You didn't ask for it.
you don't know what I asked.
He
I
said
did-
everything that you asked.
No, no, that's
I
that
know
was
that
like
boss
2
is
years
in
ago.
there.
That was not even this year. This was 2 years ago. We talked about getting a van for the seniors. It was not even last year. It was the year before last. Yes, sir. Go ahead, Mr. Manager.
I'm waiting to hear
I-
this.
I'm-
I'm done. Are you X for it too?
Yeah.
Well, that's two people X for it. So how you know I
They
didn't
will
X?
have they will have their van.
Okay.
Okay.
And
Okay.
the other thing, and this is just a comment.
You hear Mary?
Every person in here, and I don't mind or care about staff salary. I just think that we need to look how we expand the city because we are growing in personnel, and that's a little concern because we got to look at the budget because my whole thing, we got to give something back to the residents. And year after year, I don't know if we're doing that, and that's why I think next we need to look at how do we address the residents' needs. And I know everybody here kind of work for the residents. At least that should be the case, just like us here. We work for the residents, but that needs to be the focus when we start looking at doing budget. The community need has to be first. Every department assistant or whoever has a cell phone allowance. So I'm assuming, because I see it at a lot of departments. So, Mr. Manager, when you see them, let them know that they are public servant. If they are receiving, we need to know those numbers so that we could give it to residents, so that residents will be calling them. I know I don't have no problem with your management, and I can't say I have any with any directors, but I'm just saying that that is something a resident did mention to me. And I said, yes, I'll definitely make sure that you share that with them. We all are
Absolutely.
public servant, and we all get, including us, get and they don't call you past 8 o'clock residents or 6 o'clock, whatever. I haven't.
Some of them do.
I've been pretty, well, some, but, I've been pretty, on average, if you get a call at 10 o'clock, it's an emergency, but they'll knock on my doors more than they'll even call, so.
Oh, residents?
Yeah, every now and
They're
then.
not knocking at your door as councilman. They know you forever.
No, they don't. They just, I see your car outside, I want to talk to
I
you.
have a question.
Good, so, okay.
I have a question for those mom and pop grants. They can be used for merchandise, 100%?
We don't,
Huh?
What merchandise?
Okay.
If you allow me to address that with the CRA, I'll
Okay.
All right.
Can you address that to me? Because
That's it?
yes, and my last question for the passport.
You
where
ran
is
out of
the
your budget
funding
for
that?
questions.
All right, so let me tell you, the passport, the two positions with our passport is in our budget, the passport coordinator and our administrative coordinator. But the manager's approach, and I'm always at the city hall at Baltimore, always at the city hall in Atlanta. I see what he's doing. What he's trying to do, he's trying to centralize customer service locations. And I noticed that at the Baltimore City Hall and Atlanta City Hall, it's a safety issue. And because we have such a high volume, and I know Councilman Galvin Bieneme, you talked about this, and Alex did, when you go down there, we can't really accommodate the amount of people that go in there to get passports done. And ever since Miami Gardens shut down their passport offices, we're getting an influx of a lot of people in addition to what we have been getting. And it's becoming a problem now. And I tend to favor North Miami residents, and there's problems with that as well, because I have a problem with North Miami residents waiting for so long, and we're accommodating people from different cities. But according to what the United States Department of state requires from our federal regulations, we can't do it. So what the manager approach was to basically centralize all customer service location across the street, which is going to be in addition to City Hall apparently, and they're going to have sit-in waiting areas. I did discuss with him what the rules were regarding passport. Our passport manager, which is Cheryl, has been in contact with the United States Department in Miami.
That's mean the passport gonna be over there.
Exactly. But
Okay.
that the budget is in here. But then what's going to happen, we still have to go through the application process. And once the application process, I got to submit a
For the
memo.
location.
Right, but I got to submit a memo letting them know that it's going to be under the manager's office to the state. So this is why. The clerks, the departments have, we went over the rules and the guidelines. They have very strict rules on who can have access to passport information and who can't. So if it's under the clerk's office, it's got to be located in the clerk's office. The clerk department isn't transferring over across the street. The passport services are, which is basically a hub of Larry. So rest assured, the
Wait a
service.
minute,
Go
Mr.
ahead.
Mr. Clerk. Okay. So you saying to me that the United States government is saying
Not the government, the United States Department of the Department of State,
that
which
that's
is the
the U.S.
division.
government,
Yeah.
the Fed, is saying that you cannot have satellite office as the
No.
clerk?
No.
Okay.
So, passport agents who are dealing with passports, those individuals are only in a particular department. They are the individuals who can have exclusive access to passport applications, passport documents, and because you deal with a
I
lot
understand.
of confidential information. So what Larry is creating across the street.
Not Larry. I'm talking to you because I don't. I have a issue with that going to the manager's office because they already have enough. So we need to figure out how do we do it
Can
because
we vote and then have this discussion afterwards?
But all we wanna
Yeah,
make sure
do
now
that.
that
Yeah.
the money
It's
is
in
there.
the budget.
Yeah,
It's
because
okay, it's in
do
the
have
budget.
a-
Okay.
I do have a question on that too. Well, it's not a question. It's something that I heard. I'm not. Well, no, go ahead. I'm sorry. Go ahead. I didn't mean to.
So that's a good point.
So
We
go ahead,
can-
Mr. Mayor. Let's go ahead and deal with that
vote
because
and
we
No, we
got to
won't
deal
vote.
with this passport thing.
Okay. All right. So do I have a motion to approve tab B?
With was there any other additional request or amendment tonight? No.
No.
None.
Well, with that, with my
No, not with yours. It's not, we didn't vote for that. I'm sure.
As presented
Yeah.
and discussed. Okay, as presented and discussed. Okay.
Do I have a motion?
I move.
Okay.
Second.
So I have a motion made by Mayor Smith Joseph to approve tab B as presented and discussed. The motion was seconded by Councilman Galvin. Vice Mayor Keys, how do you vote?
Yes.
Councilman Benjamin, how do you vote?
Yes.
Councilman Dezume, how do you vote?
Yes.
Mayor Joseph, how do you vote?
Yes.
And Councilman Galvin, how do you vote?
Yes.
Item passes with a 5-0 vote. Congrats, our budget has been approved.
Okay. Now we can talk about passport.
Okay, so what's the questions, and I can field the questions. So Mayor, you said you had a question?
Now the quick question that I had, I didn't know. Let's say as a city, in and of itself, we cannot provide a passport service.
Of course you can. That's what we're doing now.
That I mean, no, it's not that we cannot help people with the form.
Okay, so
Yeah, yeah.
that's
Go ahead.
That's a very good question. So the way it works, if you are a passport agent, you are prohibited from writing on the passport application forms, and this is why. And this has happened before. If a passport agent puts in someone's name, and that name was fraudulent or it wasn't a correct name, when the federal government gets involved and they start investigating and start prosecuting, the question becomes who filled out the form. If it's an employee of the city of North Miami who filled that form out, then unfortunately we can be held, well, not you guys, the passport agent can be held responsible because, believe it or not, we're guided by the federal rules regarding passports. So that's a very true statement. So what I usually do as the elected clerk, I'm not a passport agent. If there's individuals or we have volunteers who's not affiliated with the city of North Miami, who's not hired here, then they can volunteer and help fill out the forms. But any employee of the city are prohibited from doing so that we're not held liable in case a person lies and says, my name is John Smith, when in actuality their name's Jose Smith. And when the federal government catches up with the fraudulent lie, we're not held responsible because we weren't the individuals who actually filled out that application form. But that's a very good question. Little rules like that is exactly why they're very strict with their rules and regulations as to how we regulate passports, and they're very strict about it. and we've been following the rule to the past couple of years. And again, that's why we've won these awards. But it's very serious stuff. But we got very competent people taking care of it in our office.
That's why you talk about passport for the city clerk department.
Right.
And
Since the clerk's office, so if it's going to be under the hospice of the clerk is going to be in City Hall. We're going to still be downstairs or maybe upstairs on the 3rd floor. We're not going to have the day-to-day supervision of the passport services when they're across the street. So what Larry is doing, and he
but you
understands.
don't know if they're gonna approve the site anyway.
That's a very good point, and we're going through that process now. So, Ben, Pete, so you know exactly what you're talking about, and
Yeah.
that goes back to what you're saying, Alex.
It's gonna stay there
We got to
until they
go
approve
through
another site.
an entire site approval, and then they got to get memos from me as the executive director of that department to Larry Spinks. So it's a very complicated process that we're doing now.
Yeah,
Why,
to do
why, okay,
inspection,
so why don't they
safety.
keep it there?
Because we
Why
can't
don't they-
accommodate the amount of people that's down there. It's just so much.
Oh,
And
the
Backing up.
people
Yeah,
is
backing
backing
up
up.
into
Oh.
the-
right, like they're backing up into the
Okay, but
exits.
But you're gonna
let me
have
let me
social
ask you
security
this
and
though.
things like that under the
Yeah.
Privacy Act.
Let's go.
We're done.
As an administrative manager,
Talk
what's
to me.
the point of and I'm just asking a question.
Of course.
I don't like the idea of the passport being under the manager's office per se.
Understood.
Now I don't care how administratively, logistically how it worked, but I do think that it needs to be under your office.
That's the problem. For it to be under my office would have to go across the street.
That's fine. They
No,
keep
no,
going.
we're not going.
What do you
I'm not
mean
that.
your office?
Maybe the next
What do you
clerk
mean
can
you have
decide
to
to go.
go?
So
What do
this
you
is what I'm.
mean?
When they listen, Michael, when they remove the utility
Go ahead, yeah,
department,
tell me how to do my
all
job.
those
Go ahead.
departments, you're gonna have enough space now.
I'm not. That's what I'm. Well, that depends. Because don't forget now,
you-
even when they move, they're not. The finance is going to still be. If you're telling me that they're going to retrofit that area down there so I can have a sit-in waiting area so that people don't bump into each other, that'd be great. But that's not what's happening. So finance is going to still be where they're at in that little corner. We still don't have the room to accommodate the people. Now, if you guys going to retrofit down there to put a lobby, a waiting area, and a privacy area, then that'd be fine. But that's not what's happening.
My question to you, Mr. Manager, all of what he's talking about is paper, correct? And the push of the computer moving allocated from one area to another area, correct?
No, that's different, Alex.
I am saying the fact that that allocation remained in his office is all paperwork we're talking about, and then eventually if they allow the office to be moved, et cetera, et cetera. All I'm saying is, let's just say we're saying we're moving, correct? If we're saying that we are moving, that's that fund going into another account. That's what I'm talking about.
Not necessarily.
No. Okay, but do you understand what I'm saying? So it's all. Right now, we're just dealing with logistics. Look, exactly, and I'm not talking. That's what I'm telling him. I could care less the logistic of the thing, but on paper. That's all. That's all we're saying. We don't care how it happened. They could be in the police department, as far as I know. But on paper, let it be with him and all that.
Motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Thank you. Have a blessed night.